Imagine sitting at your own dining table, surrounded by the family you spent 30 years building, only to have your son-in-law lean over his steak, look you dead in the eye, and ask with a twisted grin, "So, how does it feel to be a loser?" The room went silent, the clinking of silverware stopped, and my own daughter just looked down at her plate as if she hadn't heard a thing. I sat there, the man who had paid for their wedding, the man who had given them the down payment on their first home, and realized that I was being mocked in my own sanctuary by a man who had nothing until I gave it to him. But what he didn't know was that while he was busy counting my money, I was busy making sure he'd never see another cent of it. I'm going to tell you exactly what I said next and how I took everything back, but first I have to ask you, if someone you brought into your family treated you like a stepping stone to be walked on, would you maintain your dignity and walk away? Or would you burn the bridge while they were still standing on it? I think most of you would do exactly what I did, but tell me, am I the villain for protecting what's mine? To understand how we got to that toxic dinner, you have to understand who I am. I'm Mark, and for 35 years, I ran a specialized logistics firm that I started out of a garage with nothing but a used truck and a lot of caffeine. I worked 80-hour weeks so my daughter, Sarah, would never know what a past due notice looked like. Every holiday I missed, every late night at the warehouse, and every stressful negotiation was fueled by a single desire: to build a legacy that would keep her safe forever. When Sarah met Bradley 5 years ago, I wanted to like him. I really did. He was charming, well-dressed, and talked a big game about his ambitions in finance. He seemed like the kind of go-getter Sarah deserved. Someone who could match her energy and provide the same stability I had worked so hard to establish. When they got married, I went all out. I paid for a 6-figure wedding because Sarah is my only child, and I wanted her to have the world. I remember standing there during the father-daughter dance, looking at Bradley, and thinking I was handing over my most precious treasure to a man of honor. Shortly after the honeymoon, Bradley approached me with a massive opportunity. He wanted to start his own investment firm but lacked the capital. He had these sleek pitch decks and talked about emerging markets with such confidence that he almost had me fooled. Against my better judgment, but out of love for my daughter, I handed him $200,000. I told him it was a loan, but in my heart, I knew I'd probably never see it again. I just wanted them to be stable. I wanted him to feel like the man of the house, so he wouldn't feel overshadowed by my success. Over the next few years, things started to change. Bradley's firm wasn't doing much in terms of actual trading, but his lifestyle was booming. He was buying designer suits and expensive watches. Oh, while Sarah started calling me, crying about how stressed Bradley was at work. I started hearing rumors from colleagues in the city that Bradley wasn't investing the money. He was spending it to look like a high roller to attract bigger fish that never seemed to bite. He was essentially using my retirement fund as a personal branding budget. Then the real blow came. My company hit a massive legal snag. A patent dispute that I knew would eventually be resolved because our tech was airtight, but in the short term, it froze my assets and forced me into a temporary, high-profile restructuring. To the outside world, and especially to the local business papers who love a fall from grace story, it looked like I was going under. It looked like the great Mark Davis was finally losing his empire. I had to let go of staff I'd known for decades, and for the first time in 30 years, I felt vulnerable. Instead of offering support, Bradley's tone shifted instantly. He stopped calling me sir, and started calling me big guy with a patronizing pat on the back that felt more like a shove. He stopped asking for advice and started giving it, telling me I was out of touch and old school, and that the world had passed me by. He thought my ship was sinking and he was already looking for a lifeboat, completely ignoring the fact that his entire lifestyle was the very weight pulling my ship down. Sarah became distant, caught between her husband's new arrogance and her father's supposed downfall. She started making excuses for why they couldn't come over, or why Bradley was too busy to help me move some boxes at the office. It all culminated in that Sunday dinner. Bradley had insisted on hosting, which was a first. Usually, they'd come to my place and I'd grill steaks, but this time he wanted to show off. He bought the most expensive wine, likely with the last of the money I had lent him, and spent the entire evening bragging about a new deal he supposedly closed with a tech mogul in Dubai. He kept making side comments about the old guard failing and how some people just don't know when to quit while they're ahead. I sat there, eating my dinner in silence, watching this man who had contributed nothing to the world belittle me in front of my own daughter. He thought I was broke. He thought the legal battle had stripped me of my teeth, and that I was just a senile old man waiting for a handout. That's when he leaned in, that smug look on his face, his eyes gleaming with a predatory sort of joy, and asked that question that changed everything. How does it feel to be a loser, Mark? To go from the top of the mountain to the dirt? I looked at Sarah, hoping she'd say something, but she just bit her lip and stared at a spot on the tablecloth. So I smiled. I didn't get angry. I didn't shout. I didn't even drop my fork. I just leaned back, took a slow, deliberate sip of that wine I probably paid for, and asked him, Bradley, do you actually know who owns the lease on that office space you're so proud of? Or the title to the car you drove here tonight? The look of confusion on his face was almost better than the revenge itself. He started to stammer, saying those were business expenses and that he had connections that handled the paperwork, but I could see the gears turning. He realized he had made a catastrophic mistake. He thought I was down for the count, but he forgot that I'm the one who built the arena he's playing in. I had spent 30 years learning how to protect myself from corporate sharks. A bottom feeder like Bradley never stood a chance. Now, I've told you how he insulted me and how I responded with a question of my own. We are at the tipping point of this story. I had the power to ruin him right then and there. Or I could have let it slide for Sarah's sake and lived the rest of my life in quiet resentment. Before I tell you the absolute carnage that followed that dinner, I want you to pause right now and go to the comments. If your son-in-law or a family member insulted your entire life's work while living off your generosity, would you cut them off entirely, or would you try to keep the peace for the sake of your child? Seriously, let me know, because what I did next was cold, calculated, and final. And I need to know if you think I went too far. The silence at the table stretched for what felt like an hour. Bradley tried to laugh it off, a nervous, high-pitched sound that didn't reach his eyes, saying, Come on, Mark, it was just a joke. Don't get all sensitive. I thought we were just talking man-to-man. But the smile never left my face. I told him, It's funny you mention being a loser, Bradley. Because a loser is someone who bets everything on a hand they don't actually hold. You see, when I set up that loan for your business, I didn't just write a personal check like a fool. My lawyers set up a holding company, Davis Legacy Holdings. That holding company doesn't just fund you. It owns your equipment, your lease, your intellectual property, and yes, that beautiful Italian car in the driveway that you love to post on Instagram. And because you haven't made a single interest payment in 18 months, and because your firm has failed to produce a single audited tax return, you've been in technical default for over a year. I just didn't say anything because I wanted to see if you'd eventually find some integrity and come to me. Instead, you decided to use my supposed failure as an opportunity to kick me while I was down. Bradley's face went from pale to a ghostly white, then to a sickly shade of green. Sarah finally found her voice and asked, Dad, what are you talking about? Default? You own the car? I looked at her with all the love I had left, but with the firmness she needed to hear, and said, Honey, I've been trying to protect you. But your husband hasn't been building a business. He's been playing dress-up with my life's work. He used the money I gave him for your future to buy watches and bottle service. And tonight, he decided to spit on the man who provided it all. I stood up, tucked my chair in with a soft click, and told Bradley that he had 24 hours to vacate the office. I told him the car would be picked up by a recovery team at 8 a.m. the next morning. I also informed him that Davis Legacy Holdings would be filing for a full audit of his firm's accounts to recover every misspent penny. The aftermath was a whirlwind of chaos. Bradley didn't just go quietly. He spent the next 48 hours calling everyone we knew, claiming I was a tyrant who was trying to bankrupt a young entrepreneur, out of spite. He even tried to convince Sarah that I had set him up from the start because I was jealous of his youth. But Bradley was sloppy. He had left his laptop open one night during his panic, and Sarah saw the truth. She saw the emails to other women, the receipts for jewelry she never received, and the gambling debts he'd been hiding under the guise of market losses. The Dubai tech mogul he bragged about? It was a fake email account he'd created to send himself confirmation letters to keep Sarah off his back. Once the veil was lifted and she saw the financial records, she realized she wasn't married to an ambitious man. She was married to a parasite. It took a few months, but Sarah filed for divorce. Bradley tried to sue me for malicious interference and emotional distress, but you can't sue someone for reclaiming property they legally own after a contract is breached. He tried to play the victim in court, but my legal team brought receipts for everything: the suits, the watches, the vacations. He ended up moving back into his parents' basement in another state, the big shot reduced to nothing, and his designer watches were sold at a fraction of their cost just to pay his initial legal fees. My company? The legal dispute was settled 3 weeks after that dinner. As I suspected, the other firm had no leg to stand on, and we walked away with a massive settlement that only increased my net worth. I wasn't a loser. I was just playing a long game, waiting for the right moment to strike. I ended up selling the firm a year later for a price that ensured Sarah would be taken care of for 3 lifetimes. Now Sarah and I are closer than ever. She's back on her feet, working a real job in interior design. And she told me later that the moment I stood up at that dinner was the moment she finally saw Bradley for who he really was. She told me she had felt something was wrong for a long time, but was too afraid to admit she'd made a mistake in marrying him. My downfall was the best thing that ever happened to our relationship because it stripped away the lies. It's amazing how a person's true colors come out when they think you have nothing left to offer them. They stop performing, they stop pretending, and you finally see the rot underneath. I'm now retired, spending my days traveling and making sure my daughter actually learns the value of a dollar she earned herself, rather than one handed to her. The moral of the story is simple. Never mistake someone's silence for weakness, and never bite the hand that feeds you, especially if that hand holds the deed to your house and the keys to your future. I learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, loyalty, and standing by people when they're at their lowest, not just when they're at their highest. If you think I did the right thing by teaching Bradley a lesson he'll never forget, and protecting my daughter from a lifetime of deception, hit that like button right now. If you think I was too harsh, or that I should have handled it privately, let's talk about it in the comments. I read every single one of them, because your perspectives help me process this whole mess. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because trust me, the world is full of Bradleys, and sometimes you have to be the one to show them exactly what a loser can really do. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.